So let's introduce.
So here he, so I asked him to come here. He's, you know, like he writes amazing fiction. I asked him to come here tonight to talk about his days as a paramedic, and he keeps a blog of those, and it's written in such a cool, urgent style. I thought it would be perfect for tonight. So thank you to him for coming, and please give him a huge welcome. It's Daniel Jose Older.
Hey everybody. Oh, it's not as cold up here. Are you having a good fucking time? Is anyone not from the UK? I'm just doing my best not to break into a terrible accent. Because I have that habit, you know when you're talking to somebody and they have an accent and then you start to do it and then you're an asshole? I have that. And I am that. When I was 15, I was sleeping over at my friend's house and he had a British dad that we all made fun of, nicely, respectfully. And we were high, and then, you know, I missed my train and I slept in, and then, you know, his father came in the room and was like, "Oh, Daniel, you're missing your train, you've got to go." And I assumed it was my friend making fun of his father, as we do. So I was like, "Oh, shut up. Oh, you're so silly. Oh, Daniel, we've got to go. That's lovely." So I'm trying not to be that person right now. Anyway, my name is Daniel Jose Older. I wrote a book called Shadow Shaper that people like really loved, which is awesome. Like, yeah, it was great. The New York Times like made out with it. It's amazing. Except that weird corner of the internet that was like, there just weren't enough white people in it. This is a young adult urban fantasy. You need more white people in that genre? Like, do you have any? They did a study. 99.9% of white people in, you know, urban fantasy young adult books save the fucking world. Like, you're constantly saving the world. Do you have to be everywhere? But they were mad. So, you know, I took it as a compliment. The book continues to take over the world, so that's exciting. But as she said, I was a paramedic for 10 years. And it is a really fucked up job. And it's also a really boring job. What happens is you meet someone at a party and they go, "Oh, what do you do?" And you're like, "Oh, I'm a paramedic." And then they always go, like the most original thing they're about to say. "What's the most fucked up thing you've ever seen?" Or they either say that or they go, "Oh, the funniest thing happened to me. I had this paramedic story one time. And I was..." And then you who actually does have a lot of really cool stories are stuck listening to somebody who like got hit by a ladder or whatever. Which is fascinating. But anyway, so this Hollywood lady called me up a couple years ago, and has anyone ever gotten like that? It's like for writers, that's like the call, right? Like you've been waiting. Spoiler alert: I don't end this story with a movie deal or anything. But it was exciting at the time. So has anyone ever had that call? Any writers in here ever talked to Hollywood people? Any Hollywood people here? I'm about to make fun of y'all really bad. You guys are weird. It's another species entirely. But this lady called, and Hollywood people, like, everything is really funny because they're programmed to like make everybody feel comfortable. And in that programming, the way they make you feel comfortable is by laughing at all your jokes, even if you didn't tell a joke. It's really awkward. So she calls and she's like, "Hey, I'm looking for Daniel Jose Older." It's not my name. And I was like, "Oh, well, this is Daniel Jose Older." And she goes, I was like, "Oh, this is awkward." So, you know, turns out she works for a TV show, and the whole premise is it's a reality show, but about paramedics. And, you know, she wanted to know if I could tell a cool story and they could videotape and reenact it. And, you know, the twist was, it's got to be heartwarming. I was like, oh, this is not going to go well. Paramedics don't have a lot of heartwarming stories. And I was like, oh, well, maybe, you want to hear about the guy that called for a broken heart. And she was like, oh, that sounds... But the dude actually did call. It came over as a cardiac call because he had chest pain, and the 911 system is a joke. And so we showed up, and we all had our, we have our bags and everything, and we were like flying across the city, lights and sirens blaring and everything, and we get there, and the little old guy is literally just sitting in his chair like this, and he's like, I have a broken heart. I was like, how long has it been going on? He was like, a long time. how bad is it on a scale of 1 to 10? You know, you have questions. You gotta ask the questions. They tell you gotta ask the questions. He was like, it's a 12. I was like, there's a nice lady walking around your apartment. She seems nice. He was like, that's my sister. I was like, do you want to go to the hospital? He was like, We took him to the hospital, and everybody there knew his name. I know, it's so heartwarming, right? She was like, do you have any other stories? And I was like, this is so not gonna go well. I was like, do you want to hear the one about the guy that ate his own teeth? And I was like, that's not... The problem, and then that's the thing, is like, you're a medic and you have all these amazing stories and all this crazy shit you've done, and then they always just end like that, and then the guy ate his teeth. And it's like, that's not a punchline, that's not heartwarming, there's no deeper message to it. That's why people are always like, oh, you should totally write a book about when you're a paramedic. And I'm like, that's gonna be the last line of the book, and then the dude ate his teeth. Like, that's not a... You're gonna throw the book across the room when you're done, because it's just, that sucks. But the guy that ate his teeth was pretty cool, though. Did you guys ever play that Mike Tyson game, Punch Out? That was fat. Did anybody else play it? Yes, Punch Out. You know I think it was King Hippo? King Hippo? Yeah. We had him as a patient one time. And he basically was drinking in the Lower East Side, as you do. And then, well, we found him just face down, like on the pavement with his teeth everywhere. Some of them. He had to have some left to eat. And so we were like, oh no, he must have got hit with a bat or shot or something, you know, as soon as we rolled up. And we found some passerbys, and we were like, what happened? And they were like, the dude just went, like, he was just talking on his phone and he just fucking ate pavement. So sometimes that happens. So we were like, all right, whatever. So, you know, we roll him over. He's like 300 pounds, just burly. You could tell he was angry. He was unconscious, but you could tell he was angry. You know, put him in the ambulance. Things seem to be going fine. The cops show up as they do sometimes. We're like, you know, we got this. He's unconscious, whatever. We start to put the collar on him, and then we start to drive off, and then I hear the guy go, roar! So I look in the rear view, and he sits up Frankenstein's monster stuff. Mind you, he was strapped to a backboard. Doesn't matter. Sits up. You gonna do me like that? Now, we had a student with us at the time who was like 12, tiny. And then the other guy I was working with was like military and huge. And so he was just, you know, my partner was just chilling. And the student was like, no, 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 sir. We are not trying to do you like that. I promise. He was like, are you trying to do me like that? And I was like, this is fucked up. Mind you, my partner doesn't seem to mind. Again, he's military. He sees this shit all the time. I mean, I did too, but not quite to this degree. This guy was like 8 times as big as the student. So I'm like, fuck. I pull over, run in the back. What happened too was that when the guy ate shit, his chin became detached from his face. Sorry, I know, it's so heartwarming, right? And it just like dangled down and started sort of flapping. So it's just a flap. His chin was just a flap. I'm a big hit at parties. Did you? What's really awesome is when I would come home after a graveyard shift and have breakfast with my roommates, and they'd be like, so how was it? Never mind. Just fuck it. So anyway, his chin is flapping back and forth, and he's like, who gonna do me like that? And the student is like, nobody's trying to do you like that. And I was like, this is fucked up. So the cops come, they jump in the back, you know, we actually have to wrestle with him, and he keeps yelling and trying to figure out who's trying to do him like that. We strap him back down, he jumps back up, his chin is flying around all kinds of ways. And then we get to the hospital. As we're pulling him out, he starts eating his teeth. That's literally, see, that's what I mean. Like, there's no punchline. It just fucked up. He literally was just taking his teeth out of. Come on, fucking King Hippo. So that one didn't work out for the heartwarming piece. And then I was like, maybe you want to hear about the time that I finally got really fucking totally freaked out. And she was like, I don't know if I want to hear that story. And I was like, no, this one's great. Now, every medic has like that thing that really fucks them up. Like, we will be complete badasses in every possible way, but there'll be that one thing. It's like just that, like that fucking song. Just that one thing got me tripping. It'll fuck you up. My EMT teacher back in college, his one thing was pregnancy. So that's unfortunate. So like he couldn't be like, yeah, like a woman couldn't even give birth on the same like zip code as him. He would lose his mind. He could not handle it. Like when they played the video that we had to watch about giving birth, he was like out. Like he was like, And it is a lot, but come on, like you got to handle it. Mind you, he'll deal with brains flying out of people's heads and intestines and chins flapping around, all that shit. So I didn't know what mine was. I mean, poop is nasty. Just really never thought I'd be in front of an audience saying poop is nasty, and that's gross. And people's chins flapping and stuff is nasty, but none of it really honestly bothered me. I'm not trying to just sound cool. It just was like, all right, this is your job. So you have a mindset and you go in and you deal with it. The thing is, so this one time, at band camp, this dude jumped off a roof. And it wasn't even that was nasty, because he actually survived mostly intact. No, he didn't survive, he's dead. But his body was mostly intact. It wasn't mush or anything like that. And at the time, we also had a student that night. And for whatever reason, the Hasidic ambulance group picked him up. Do you guys know about that? There's a group called Hatzola. Yeah, so they run around and, mostly handle their people, but sometimes they pick up other people. And there's always like 19 of them in there. It's really weird, because it's like a fucking clown car. Like, they'll roll up in an ambulance, and a lot of them will be dressed up like not in uniform, which is awkward. So they'll have a yarmulke and they'll have everything, but then they'll be in like sweatpants. And you're like, I don't know if you should take care of me. First of all, there's 18 of you, so can you find the one that's not in sweatpants? Anyway, so they picked him up, and he was going to Brooklyn Hospital, and so we were like, oh, I had the student, and the student wanted to see a jumper down, which is what you call when someone jumps off a roof. So I was like, all right, we'll just give him the experience. So we roll up right at the same time as they roll up. All of them jump out of the thing, and they just fucking vanish, like they're gone. And we were like, uh-oh, that's not good. That's not good. The one thing that you cannot do is bring in a cardiac arrest, someone who's dead, and not be doing CPR. That is like the biggest no-no. I don't care who you are. You can't do that. They're either DOA, which means you pronounce them and you probably leave them there, or you take them directly to the morgue, or you are at least going through the motions of trying to revive them. Otherwise, they have no business being in the ER. That's just a ground rule. So what happened with this guy was dead. He jumped off a building, a project house. It was, serious. So I don't know why they all disappeared. Maybe they were just icked out too, but they were just like, just vanished. I think all probably under the pretense of like, we have to alert the hospital. And then they're gone. So I peek my head in to see what's up, and the guy, all I see is his feet, and they're like this instead of like this. Because he landed on them. And then they start pulling him out. The two guys that are left start pulling him out, and his skin is just 100% white. Probably because everything just inside of him was just crushed. But outwardly, he looked totally normal, except that he was 100% white. So that was all fine. I've seen that plenty of times too. But then again, there's no one there doing CPR. So again, you cannot roll a dead person into the hospital and not be doing CPR. That is like, no, you don't, and you don't let anybody else do it either. So I was like, fuck, So I glove up. I'm like, let me just do that thing. The thing they do in TV shows where they jump on the stretcher? They're like, all right, go. I did that. And while I'm doing that, the guy's shirt was pulled open, and he didn't have much chest hair, but he had one single little curl of chest hair. And that little piece of chest hair reached up to the little spot of exposed skin on my wrist, and it went, and I was like, fuck this. Done. Bye. See you later. I quit this job. I quit this life. I will never be back again. I was fucking done. It was over. I literally walked the fuck away. I was like, y'all can handle your own people. Goodbye. And I walked. And that was the most icked out that I have ever been in my entire motherfucking career. There is no punchline to that story, except that someone started a Twitter account for the single chest hair on the guy, and it regularly trolls me now whenever I say anything about chest hair. I'm pretty sure they have an alert, so if I say chest hair on Twitter, it just pops up, and it's like, hey, remember me? And I'm like, because it was icky. I can't even tell you why. Anyway, that's what I do. My name is Daniel Jose Older. My book is Shadow Shaper. Midnight Taxi Tango comes out in January. Thank you all so much. You're wonderful.